Hi guys, it's Professor Fernandez, and this is the second video talking about semicolons. Ugh, I hate me a good semicolon. I think they're awful, awful. However, it is English and should probably learn to use them correctly. So let's get started. In the first video, I kind of went over 4 rules on how to use a semicolon. And we talked about those. So let me go over them with you kind of verbally. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and go back and look at that video. It's got some good stuff in it. So the first thing is that you want to connect 2 independent clauses with the semicolon, and they're both related to each other. So one begets the second. So that means that they're 2 independent clauses, which is another phrase for the word sentence, a complete sentence with a subject, a verb, and the direct object, or subject and a verb, right? Those 2 have to relate to each other. So you just pop it in the middle right there between them, and thus you're using the semicolon correctly. The second way to use it is to take a sentence that's already combined together with a conjunction and a comma, and just take away the conjunction and the comma and replace it with a semicolon. So what are conjunctions? If you've ever heard the song Conjunction Junction, that's a conjunction. And, but, or. And of course, you can think about fanboys, which is for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Ha. So those are conjunctions. And conjunctions help you, they're like glue, and help you put 2 sentences, full sentences together with the comma, right? So if you're going to use a semicolon and prefer to use a semicolon, you can just take that out and just pop in the semicolon in place of the conjunction and the comma. But again, I'm not a big semicolon fan, so I would never do that. But it is completely workable and doable. Okay, number 3, semicolons in a serial list. This is kind of complicated to say, but it's not as complicated when you see it. When you have a grouping of things that are already paired together, and you're going to list a bunch of groupings of things together in a series, you're gonna use the semicolon. So my favorite colors in the order that I like them is brown, black, and blue. It's not really. Brown, black, and blue. There's commas in between those, so that's grouped 1 together. Red, orange, and yellow, another group together. And green, pink, and fuchsia. There is a difference between pink and fuchsia. Don't at me at this. Okay, green, pink, and fuchsia. So group 1 is here, group 2 is here, group 3 is here. But you're gonna wanna list them together. And you can't just do a comma, because if you do a comma between the groupings, it's like one big long list. And really, it's 3 short lists. So you're just gonna put a comma, semicolon, between each of the groupings. That's it. And number 4, you use conjunctive adverbs. And conjunctive adverbs are what you probably were taught as transition verbs. It transitions from one paragraph to another, like however, but, however, moreover, likewise, therefore. I have them listed here. Consequently is a really good one. And finally, right? Those are conjunctive adverbs. Fancy words for like, to mean that these words are literally like have all the privilege in the world, and we treat them a little bit differently. So when you have a conjunctive adverb like however at the beginning of a sentence, you're not going to use a semicolon. You're actually probably more likely going to use a comma. However, I like gummy bears, comma, after however. But if you're going to say, I like candy, however, gummy bears are the best candy ever. And they are. Again, do not at me with this. Do not argue me down from gummy bears. It's not happening. Then you're going to put a semicolon right before however. Okay, so now that we know the rules, I want to go through a couple of exercises with you. So let me screen share here. And I got these exercises from the internet because my brain is fried and I can't think of anything. So, so I will definitely share this with you. I will share a clean version of this so you can work on it and then you can watch this video and see how we do. I'm only going to do a couple of these. I'm not going to do a lot of these. So the big thing about using semicolons is that you want to realize what a sentence is. And that's why we went over really briefly, like the parts of a sentence. So let's look at the first sentence. It's two sentences, but we just got to put the semicolon somewhere. All the stores in our neighborhood used to be closed on Sunday. Now they're open all day and sometimes even on Sunday evening. So this is an example of a run-on sentence. And why it's a run-on sentence is you have a couple of ideas pressed up into a sentence between the capital letter and the period, right? You have all the stores, neighborhood, closed on Sunday, open all day, open Sunday evening. You got five big ideas in this one sentence. So this is a run-on. So this means that there's really two sentences here. So let's take it first. Let's take it by subject, verb, and direct object, or subject, verb, and then like some things happening here. Like I like to call it the extra. So all the stores in our neighborhood used to be closed on Sunday. All the stores seems like a good subject. Or all the stores in the neighborhood is a good subject. We're talking about all the stores in this one neighborhood. Used looks like a verb. Used to be used what? To be closed on Sunday. Boom. That's a full sentence right there. So that means a semicolon goes right there. And we know it's a semicolon goes there because A, we're practicing semicolons. But B, the second sentence looks like the second part looks like a full sentence. But let's see. Now there being the subject, that's what we're talking about, right? The actual subject of the sentence. Now they are, so you have like the subject and the verb because it's a contraction. What are they? Open. And what about them being open? All day, sometimes even on Sunday evening. There you go, a full sentence, right? So you have these two sentences right there. Now, let me show you what you do in case you don't want to use a semicolon, because you don't have to use a semicolon, which is why I hate semicolons. They are useless, except for one reason. You just make those bad boys two sentences and call it a day. And this is why I like making them two sentences, because there's clarity there, where with semicolons, there may not be clarity because you're beginning writers, you may not know if they're related yet. I personally would not use a semicolon unless I was in a revision. If I'm going back after I've already written it and I see two sentences and they relate to each other and it just flows better with a semicolon, and like, I'm feeling myself and I'm a little extra, I'm going to show off for my professor and I'm going to use a semicolon correctly, I'm going to put it in there. You don't have to show off for me. I hate semicolons. You don't have to use them. But if you want to be extra, semicolon. All right, next one. The city has adjusted its traffic regulations to accommodate bicycles. For example, most avenues now have clearly marked blue lanes. Run-on sentences. Run-on sentence. Okay, so let's look at the first part of this. The city has adjusted. All right, so I see a subject. The subject, this is about the city. The city is doing some work here. And what are they doing? They have adjusted or has adjusted, which is my helping verb with my other verb. And what is it adjusting? Traffic regulations to accommodate bicycles. That's the end of the sentence. Semicolon goes right there. Oh, dun, dun, dun. Let's try the next one because the next one's really interesting. The appointment calendar listed Miss Alvarado, 10:15, Mr. Barks, 11 a.m., and Miss Lowe, 11:45. Whew. That's a lot of work there, right? And so we come to the third rule, which is like the sequential order of a serial of things that are listed. I want to look at this right now with just the commas in there. Because what this sentence is telling me is that or supposed to tell me, is that Miss Alvarado has a 10:15 appointment. Then Mr. Banks has an 11 a.m. appointment, and Miss Lowe has an 11:45 a.m. or p.m. or whatever appointment, right? So that's how it's grouping it together. How it's written, however, says Miss Alvarado 10:15, Mr. Banks 11, and Miss Lowe 11:45. It's not giving me or grouping Miss Alvarado with 10:15. It's just listing a name and a time, name, time, name, time. So it's not giving me a list of people's names and their times. It's just giving me a list. So how you would do this is you would put a semicolon where you want to put the groupings. So now by putting a semicolon there, I know that Miss Alvarado belongs to 10:15. If I put a semicolon there, I know that Mr. Barks belongs to 11 a.m. And then just with this, you can just put and. You don't have to put any more semicolon because you put one right here. I know Miss Lowe belongs to 11:45. That one's tricky. That one's tricky. Let's do one more. And then I will leave this to your devices. Okay. Betty Collins, a most unlikely candidate, was nominated on the first ballot. However, she told reporters that the party would be pleased with her nomination when she won the election in November. Please do not ever turn in a sentence like this to me in any of your essays. For then a fairy will weep. There will be volcanoes erupting, earthquakes will, I better not say that, it's 2020. But you get my drift. This is, ugh. Like even just looking at it just makes the hair on my arms just like stand on end. So let's break this down, okay? All right, so we know Betty Collins is the subject of this sentence. She's doing all the things, right? And so I don't want you to get confused with this. This is a clause, right? This is an additional clause because this is additional information about Betty Collins. If we took this out, the sentence would still be good. But we're adding information about Betty Collins. So we're putting an additional clause there, right? Again, has nothing to do with semicolons, but I just thought I would add that because I don't want you to get confused. So Betty Collins, here's your helping verb, was nominated. What was she nominated? What about her being nominated? She was first on the ballot. You also have your conjunctive verb here, however. So this one's super easy. Semicolon. Done. And so those two are put together like that. So I will let you guys do the rest of these on your own for extra work. No, you do not get extra credit. This is extra work because eventually you will be having to understand semicolons and fragments and comma splices and whatnot. And so any extra help is always worth it, right? So I hope that was helpful to you. I hope that kind of cleared things up. I don't tend to do a lot of grammar videos because grammar is grammar and there's 10,000 grammar videos on YouTube. But I just thought because so many people were asking about semicolons in the end of week check-in that I should probably do something. So bye guys.